G'day fellas and welcome. It's time to find out who is the king of Arabia because we have got an absolute cracker of a matchup. It is the French in the north of the map on the color green up against the English on the south of the map in the color teal. And of course it's Crackity here who starts us off with an early barracks. Looking to bring the pain early against the French player. And I like this play. I think it's really smart. The French is typically going to be looking to try and get on gold early on in those games. But sometimes their build orders can be a little bit delayed because they like to go for greedy wheelbarrows where they have 8 villagers on food and then they go up to 4 villagers on gold. And if they do that, they're going to be delaying. But it looks like, fortunately for our French player, it's just going to be a 7 and 3. So, question's going to be whether the man-at-arms is able to get over there in time. It's a pretty decent spawn for Crackity here, and he runs out immediately towards the enemy base, finds the town center, will see the gold vein. Got to be careful, though, not to lose that scout. Could have potentially lost it, but fortunately, those villagers do not look to jump inside the town center, but spots out the gold vein. He is going to be hitting this gold mine probably close to about 1 minute 30, which is very, very nice. Now, in addition to that, you can also start hitting your enemy in other areas. Let's say that they do happen to collect the gold that they need to age up. Well, guess what? Maybe they want to go for a second town center. Well, you can stop them from doing that as well. But we see the second man-at-arms now coming out for Crackity here. 9 villagers on food at the moment. A lot of villagers on food. He's going to be going for more than 2 men-at-arms, my suspicion is. And I do like this play. You've got to be cautious, though. Going men-at-arms against the French can always end in a bit of a bad time because they do have access to the knights in the feudal age, which means that it's very easy for them to go into that. And we can see men-at-arms slowly but steadily making his way over here, up to a minute 40, so a little bit late on that one. I think if you want to go, the fastest possible men-at-arms over here is like a minute 20. That's if it's a front gold. But now coming through, we can see how much gold is left on this. 39.33. You can see that he is slowly gathering up the gold that he needs to age up our French player. Just going to be ignoring the first men-at-arms. Not even moving the villagers off the gold for the moment. At the same time, scout down towards the south side. Takes a couple of arrows in. 2 villagers going to have to fall back here. And now sits on... I'm curious how many resources he's going to be carrying back in here. So this is... He's up to 186, but pulls more villagers. So Crackity forcing a lot of villagers to pull. We do see the second man-at-arms now going to be coming out. So we can look to do a lot of damage here. Let's see exactly how much he does as he throws the torches at that first villager. Second villager now going to be under attack as well. Crackity is looking to cause havoc early on in this game and doing a wonderful job of it. But it looks like the age up will come through. Plenty of resources gathered up, but a lot of these villagers have been damaged heavily. Fortunately, no losses for our French player today, but there is an age up that will be on the way. As you can see, all of that gold is now going to be going towards an age up, which will allow our French player to begin moving into the School of Cavalry. Now, one thing to note is with the School of Cavalry, you've got access to the knight in the feudal age, but it does cost gold. And in this situation, you're not really going to be using gold. Or, well, you're not really going to have access to gold. So, what you can look to do is potentially move into horsemen with food and wood, or you can look to drop down an archery range with a whole lot of wood. One other thing to note is that Crackity's had a very, very good spawn, or you could say that the French player just hasn't had a particularly good spawn. Have a look at this. All of the gold on the front. All of the gold on the front. It's not a good time right now to be this French player, which means that if he wants to try and escape out the back, which is something I often encourage people to do when I'm coaching and I say you get men-at-arm rush, what you want to do is move a couple villagers out the back, try and find a gold vein out the back, which, by the way, if you're interested in coaching, make sure you check out the Patreon. Of course, we've got plenty of content over there. Replay reviews. Lots of private coaching that can be done as well. So, check it out. But I think what's interesting here is the fact that he's going to be able to not only grab the house, but force the gold completely off. So, it's going to be housing his enemy and then also putting him on the back foot with regard to that gold. So, I'm curious to see how the French player looks to play it. Now, in addition, we obviously just plugged the Patreon, but let me plug another thing to Outback Octagon. When this video goes live, Outback Octagon will be going live within 1 hour. So 1 hour after that, if you're watching this video and it's 1 hour, turn the video off. I don't care about my YouTube analytics. Turn the video off, come over onto Twitch, come say good day, come watch some live Outback Octagon, and that's when things start to get crazy when it's live. You know, it was a famous quote from somebody who said, "Stuff it, I'll do it live." Will stuffing do it live? I think that was the quote. But yeah, it's a bit chaotic when you're doing things live. But anyway, we move forward, we move on. The age ups come through. Let's ride on board with our French player as the horsemen are now under production, working towards this mining camp. This mining camp not really that important. It only does cost 25 wood to build this mining camp, so not a huge deal if it does go down. Very easy to rebuild. But the first of the horsemen are out now. And we can see that our French player has begun diversifying their food source as well. Not a whole lot of sheep underneath this town center. the scout out on the map. Hasn't collected too many of them either. So Crackity's had a pretty good cracker of a game early on. And speaking of Crackity, the Ajax now come through. It's going to be the Council Hall for him. I suspect we'll see a Spearman, maybe a Longbowman or two. Let's see exactly what we get. But Men-at-Arms going to be able to fight up against these Horsemen. Dishing out some pretty decent damage here. Horseman does move back. Nice little micro coming through from our French player. But it's not going to be enough. You can see the Men-at-Arms just so damn strong in this situation. And he's going to have to wait for an additional Horseman. There's the third one coming in. Should be able to clean up this mess now. But does manage to get an enemy Horseman for his hard work. But Longbows on the way. Together with this Scout. Looking to try and cause a little bit more damage over here. And now we see a second town center going to be thrown in the mix. At the same time, Crackity beginning to move across the map. Keep in mind, no sign of a Spearman just yet. There it is, the first Spearman, which makes a lot of sense. Now, Crackity probably will move towards a second town center himself. It's quite common that we see English players look to go into a second TC. So don't be surprised if you do see it. And now, as a result of that delayed Spearman, we mentioned it earlier, Crackity is going to allow his enemy to collect this stone that he probably shouldn't be collecting. If Crackity had his way, Longbow's going to get caught out of position here. We don't hear any of the palings going off just yet. Definitely had the opportunity to do it, but fortunately there's a Spearman coming up the rear. Should be able to save the day here. And Crackity trying his best to keep these Longbows alive. Scout also going to be coming in. Plenty of damage, and this is just delaying the attack even further. And you can see, is 100 stone off that age up now, or rather off that second town center. And once you've got that second TC, there's no denying it. It makes it very easy for the expansion because there's a really nice spot over here towards the west side. Protects the gold for any attacks that come out. Also somewhat protects the additional hunt that's over towards the west side. So really nice position there for our French player. Let's see where he looks to go for. We're right on board with him. And he's going to go for a safe town center at the back. Interesting play here. This to me indicates that he probably wants to go to castle age a bit sooner. The only thing is, by putting the town center down here, it's going to be very difficult for him to secure food. So he's going to have to think about moving into very, very early farms as an option. Either that, or he's going to have to, fight it out, fight his heart away against this feudal push that's coming out from Crackity. And you can see Crackity now is looking for this second town center. Could have been really troublesome had our French player actually gone for this initial spot on the hunt. But still, looks, looms, and waits. Crackity now, no further units coming out. Just a couple of enemy units. I tell you what, how difficult is it to see the difference between teal and green? And I hate it. I hate it. Because I get comments all the time from my colorblind friends. They say, Drongo, please, can you do something about the colors? Orange and yellow, orange and red, pink and red, teal and green. It's impossible to tell the difference between these colors. And look, I've got a button on my keyboard. I'm going to press it for you right now. Watch what happens, all right? We're riding on board with Crackity. We press this button. Everything here turns blue, okay? Over on the enemy base, it's all red, and everything's fine. But as soon as we change perspective, let's go over to our French player. Now, all of a sudden, I've got everything in red, but the colors are blue. And now Crackity, he's still blue, but the health bars are appearing red because he's technically the enemy, but he's blue because that's the color that the game has assigned him. And it just really confuses you. I mean, you could try and watch like this, but look, how do you explain that? Oh, those are blue units. No, they're not. They're red units. Oh, no, they're not. They're blue. Oh, they're red. It's not cricket. It's not fun. So unfortunately, the best we can do is just go with the unique player colors. There's no way that you can really lock it either, so very unfortunate. But we do see now our French player going to be moving, looking to take a boar. Could look to lure the boar within the confines of this. Oh, this is dangerous. Oh, this is very dangerous. We've got a wolf together with the boar looking to attack, and I think one wolf should go down. Manages to keep them all alive. Impressive play here by our French player. Throws down the outpost as well. I'm loving this stuff early on from our French player. But looking back in Crackity's base, only going to be the 2 TCs for now. And interestingly, Crackity doesn't put the town center on the gold. It's going to be throwing the outpost down in front of the gold, which is an interesting play. Definitely something that when you've got a front gold, it makes a bit more sense to go for. But keep in mind against the French, though, where you've got those knights running in or horsemen running in, the outpost on the front, it gives you a bit more warning. But if you need somewhere to garrison, well, it's going to be you're running towards your enemy. So there's always that chance that you're going to get charged and killed. So it can always be quite dangerous. But a bit of a lull in this game at the moment. Farm starting to come up. Beautiful base building from Crackity here. I don't think I can really critique him other than the barracks positioning, but obviously this is placed down where you have to place it at the beginning of the game just because you don't really have an option otherwise. You don't want to be walking over to this side of the town center. Obviously this is the best side to do it, but it's just not viable. The reason why this is the best side is because it's the closest to the wood line, and typically you're not going to be building into the wood line with your farms or your town centers as the English. But we do see the blacksmith coming down now, and a sign that Crackity plans to play feudal age a little bit longer. Always a bad sign for anybody who's expecting or hoping to play it into the castle age. Now, as we reach the 10-minute mark, I'll bring in the income so you can determine where these players are up to. You can see at the moment, our French player sits on a little bit more than 1.1k. Crackity, similarly, about 1.1, 1.2k. So both of these players pretty even with regard to their resources in. Obviously, Crackity a little bit down on the villager count, which is to be expected playing up against the French. Remember, the French do train their villagers faster. A villager for the French trains in 17 seconds in the feudal age compared to every other civ that trains them in 20 seconds, of course, except for the Chinese, once they've got that Song dynasty, which only takes 15 seconds. So a little bit of an advantage for the French, and it does really start to scale over the course of a game. But nice little moves coming through. Crackity in trouble. The archers are moving towards his longbows. Spears have come out a pretty decent way here, but it looks like the flank may come through. Longbowman's fallen back to a bit of an awkward spot, but now continues running back. Keep in mind that the archers have got a much faster speed than the longbowmen. Archers with 1.25 movement speed up against the longbows with 1.12. They will eventually catch them. Spears move forward. Archers not able to one-shot the spears anymore. It's going to give Crackity a little bit more lively, or a little bit more length on these spears with regard to their life, but you can see still doing a great job of just chasing these down. And Crackity now looking to wall up completely. Going for the behind the base walls. Falls back towards the outpost and has that network of castles. Bonus attack speed coming through. Extra 15% attack speed. Not too bad. It's better than nothing. Takes him from, what is it, 1.37 attack up to like 1.5, something like that. Maybe 1.6. Let's have a look and see. At 1.62. So decent little buff. Well, let's ride on board now with our French player as expansion continues up towards the north side. I'm loving the way that the French player plays this. It makes a lot of sense. It feels very flexible from him. And now we start to see knights coming into the mix as well. This is where you're going to start being careful. Knight superiority, a real threat in this game. And definitely a win condition for the French player. Longbows starting to take some additional hits. Spears move forward. Archer numbers are looking really good though. He's going to continue pushing this back, and we see an additional archery range pushed down, or put down for Crackity. Outnumbered 2-1 at the moment. Still falls back. Now going to be dealing with that Royal Knight. The Blacksmith is in, but +1 ranged armor. Not quite yet for our French player. Meanwhile, Crackity, he's got the +1 ranged attack, so he's going to be dishing out plenty of damage here. Looks like Vils jump into the outpost, hold it down for a little bit longer, and finally, that Knight is going to be going down, but look at the archer numbers here. Coming through for the French player. Eventually able to push back. Town centers did have to get garrisoned for it to happen, but very nice hold there by Crackity. Up 10 Vils at the moment, the French player is. Crackity fights from the rear. Definitely feels like Crackity is on the weaker side of things at the moment. That is definitely the case up against the French. They're quite quick out of the blocks. You know what I find interesting is that there is a large feudal meta at the moment, especially in these open map games, and yet there's such a distinct absence of the French. We really don't see a lot of them. I don't know if you've watched Beastie Cutie's video where he talks about civilizations at the top level, and the French are a civilization that he puts in the lowest tier. It's kind of wild to think that a civilization that excels so well in the feudal age is considered such a low priority pick in the current meta. Perhaps we see that change though. There definitely seems to be a few more French people, or at least French players, on the ladder. Now more farms start to come down for Crackity. Really looking to get that economy booming. Needs to throw down another lumber camp over here. A little bit of an absence. He's digging pretty far forward on this one as well. Might be the right idea to pull some of these villages back. I love the fact that he's going into both of them, and we've already got the age up through. Now, for his opponent, look at this. Royal Institute going to be coming down. Where is she? Oh, she blows. Bit of an interesting spot that he goes for as well. 9 villagers going to be working on that Royal Institute. One of the key timings here to look out for is the Royal Institute Royal Bloodlines timing. The Crackity begins moving forward. curious how much damage he's going to be able to do. Keep in mind, his numbers aren't the best at the moment. The French player has found a way, found a window to get up. And I don't think Crackity is any the wiser of it. Obviously, his enemy's fallen back, so he would know something is up. But this is such a dangerous time to be Crackity. Especially because the spearman numbers are so low. You got to be so careful towards the end of the feudal age. Towards that mid to late feudal age against the French. Because there's always the chance that a whole bunch of knights just come out of nowhere and you're in trouble. We start to see more and more of these walls getting put up just to run a bit more safely. More walls coming in. I think Crackity definitely senses something is up. Doing the right thing. So now Crackity needs to find his own castle age as well. Let's see if he moves villagers over onto gold. I would suspect we're going to see a lot of vills move out over to gold right now. Just the 3 for the moment. 4th one coming to join. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if 10 vills move out to this gold right now. He needs to get up as quickly as possible. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you need to have enough spears that you're not going to die to the cavalry right now. We can see it looks like he's just rallying vills over onto the gold. So instead of going quickly over onto the gold, it's just going to be a slow and steady trickle of villagers. And you can see as a result, he's going to be a bit mismatched with his food and his gold on that before that age up comes through. But now, on the other side of the map, the French player is looking to cause some havoc. And I'm curious what landmark Crackity goes for here. I think the White Tower makes a lot of sense in this situation, but you are up against 2 TCs. So maybe going into the King's Palace isn't a terrible idea. But the numbers looking pretty solid. Men at arms starting to get added in by Crackity as well. I'd really just love to see more spears. I'd love to see up to, 15 spears, something like that. Should be decent. You can see the numbers are continuing to increase. What upgrades have we got coming through? Veterancy coming through on the archers. Obviously, the veterancy has come through on the Royal Knights already. And he's trying to get the gold to age up. You can see Crackity in a little bit of trouble. We enter into the cinematic mode. It is time. Crackity has decided he needs to fight this fight. Spearman managing to do a pretty decent job on that inside, but all of a sudden, the knights have made their way through. Where are the spears? There are no spears to be here at all. Villagers, how many resources is he on? He's sitting on 600. There it comes. White Tower coming down now. But Crackity losing a lot of villagers here. He's got to be so careful, getting overrun. Plenty of archers in on the front side. But look at the damage that's coming out from the knights, just tanking up all of this. White Tower getting thrown down. Villagers, what's going on with the villagers? The White Tower, there it is. He pulls all of the villagers towards that White Tower. If this White Tower gets up, he'll be safe. But this could be trouble in paradise. This is trouble right now. Crackity in huge trouble. We can see all the archers going to begin moving up. Villagers entering into the town center, but he needs to commit at this point to the White Tower. He decides he's not going to make the commitment. Instead, falls back away from that White Tower. He's lost a lot of villagers at this point. How many villas are we talking? How many villagers has Crackity lost at this point? 16 workers have been taken down, and he's trying to hold on for dear life. And you can see he doesn't want to push past this point. The White Tower is just stalled out completely. More units going to start rallying in. This is not good right now. Crackity caught with his pants down. A 30 villager deficit. Now, obviously, he's lost 16 vills, and we start to see a couple of vills move out the back. He could look to cancel this landmark, but there has been damage put onto it, which means if he does, he's not going to get the full refund. All of the archers have finally gone down at this point. But now Crackity looks to finally turn his attention towards that White Tower. The question is going to be whether he's able to get it up, because now the Knights are just going to start working their magic on it. A little bit of extra damage there as well. He's going to be two-shotting all the villagers. No textiles. More units coming through. Crackity. Oh, this is terrible timing. The White Tower in the front, it looked like it was perfect positioning. But unfortunately, it looks like he has been completely caught unawares here. And now, at this point, you're just so out of position. You've lost so many villagers. 24 workers have been killed in a matchup against a person who's also 2 TC. The units keep flowing in. You've been idle this entire time. 25 villagers just sitting here. He tries to pull more villagers now to the White Tower to get it up. Oh, this is terrible. This is the trap of the White Tower. You want to put it on the front because it's a keep. But if your enemy catches you with your pants down, and look at all the villagers getting pulled now. 15 more villagers. He's lost 37, 38. The White Tower finally comes up, but at what cost? 48 villagers for Crackity. 0 military units. Relics getting picked up behind this, and the French player has got an incredible lead right now. Crackity is in absolute shambles. The poor guy. This is feeling terrible. It all went downhill because of a single decision on landmark positioning. And the worst part is, I would have made the same mistake. You know the part that hurts the most? Is I think if he had just moved the villagers from wood over to gold earlier on, when I was pointing it out, but we saw him like kind of rallying vills instead, he would have had the gold to age up a lot sooner. The age up would have come through a lot sooner. He would have been able to fall back to the White Tower. White Tower would have been up. The push would have come through. Wouldn't have been. He would have lost the gold on the front, but he's able to push forward from the White Tower at least. And so now he's sitting on 49 villages, trying to train up more villagers in the back, but just has to deal with an enemy who's still got archers back here. And Crackity, just at this point with his head in his hands, throws down more farms back here. Is he just going straight to Imp? Is that what he's going to try and do? A knight comes out. That's definitely a way to get back into it. But more and more units rallied here. This is exactly what the French player needs to do at this point. We see Royal Bloodlines coming through. Ranged or melee armor also coming in. And Crackity trying to hold on. Big walls coming in as well. Look at this. French player knows exactly what to do in this position. More and more units coming across the map. Has he dropped a keep or something? Yeah, he has. No wonder he's able to put all this production down. Finally, all those archers do get cleaned up. And now the question is going to be whether Crackity is able to overcome a double villager deficit. I think the answer is probably not. The last time that this happened was in 2003. And I hate to admit, but it wasn't for free. It's a game we don't talk about. Actually, it probably happened earlier than that. I'm trying to think of, like, is that a StarCraft reference? Remember, like, the throwing StarCraft games era? Who did that? Who was that? I know it was some pros. I think people went to jail for that. Like, unironically, people went to prison for throwing StarCraft games because they were betting on it. Or at least they were getting paid to do it. Has Crackity just given up at this point? Actually, I think Crackity's still fighting on. Let's ride on board with him. Let's see what the Crackity sees. A lot of villagers here on food. He's not making any units. I think Crackity's just given up. He's just walling everything in. Oh, no, I think he's actually trying to get Imperial. I think he thinks that's his only way back into it is if he gets Imperial. He secures the gold here, and he doesn't secure the gold here. He loses the Ville, the knight gets through, and the entire army of the enemy is making their way towards the gold. He knows the jig is up. Well, fellas, make sure you check out Crackity. Make sure you check out the Outback Octagon #2. It is happening very, very soon. Make sure you're over there. I'll leave links in the description to where you can catch Crackity, where you can catch me live, and where you can catch Patreon, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.